What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. We continue here with my 2024 predictions for the upcoming 2024 college football season. The BYU Cougars are up next. BYU coming off a little bit of a disappointing season last year, going 5-7 overall in 2023. So missing out on a bowl game, that was really kind of a disappointment here for the Cougars. I guess it's just because the move to the Big 12 got to them, and also the schedule was very tough last season as well. My thoughts on this team, though, for 2024, I'm not really concerned about the roster for BYU. I'm more concerned about the schedule once again. And I think that's the reason why a lot of people are saying that BYU is not going to be really good, just because of the schedule. And again, the schedule is very tough this season. So let's go ahead and get to that schedule now here for 2024. And this is the schedule here for BYU. Again, it's very tough this season. And also, they were 5-7 last year in 2023. So let's go game by game now and give you a record prediction here for the BYU Cougars for 2024. And they start off with a pretty easy game here to start off the season. Pretty much the only easy game here that they have here on this schedule, and that's against Southern Illinois. Should be a pretty easy win here on August 31st. So I think BYU starts off 1-0 pretty easily. And then after that, there's that non-conference game here on the road at SMU on September 6th. This game, of course, will be on a Friday. SMU, of course, a former Group of 5 team, now making a move to the ACC and everything. I think this SMU team is going to be really good this year. They have a lot of playmakers on their roster. They have a lot of guys that with a lot of talent and everything. They also have some playmakers that are ready to play at the Power 4 level. And I just think that SMU is going to be a really good team this year, and also a top 25 team. I think SMU is a little bit of a better team here than BYU is. It could be a close game, maybe in the first half, but, second half, maybe SMU finds a way to pull away. And this game is also on a Friday, so BYU doesn't really have a lot of time to prepare for this game. So with that being said, I think the Mustangs win this one. They're definitely the better team here. So I got BYU losing here on the road at SMU for their first loss of the season. That puts their record now here at 1-1. And then they play Wyoming here on the road on September 14th. We saw this Wyoming team last year beat a Big 12 team in Texas Tech. Could they do that now for the second year in a row? This is a pretty good Wyoming team out of the Mountain West Conference. I think they're going to be pretty good once again, even though I don't really study the Group of 5 teams that much. But, when it comes to, these Power 4 versus, Group of 5 team matchups, I usually just go with the Power 4 teams and everything. So, that being said, BYU wins this game, but it's very close. I really wouldn't really be shocked, though, if Wyoming did pull off the upset here. But I got BYU winning that game, anyway. So, that puts their record now here at 2-1. Then they open up Big 12 play here against Kansas State at home here on September 21st. Kansas State's going to be a pretty good team this year. They're one of those top contenders in the Big 12. And again, this schedule is very tough. I mean, BYU has to play all the top teams here in the Big 12. We'll just get to in just a second. But Kansas State, I think, is clearly the better team here. I think BYU competes for a little while in the first half, but, it's second half. I think the Wildcats will probably pull away here in this one. It's a game that Kansas State is the better team here. So with that being said, I think the Wildcats win this one by maybe a couple touchdowns, maybe 14 points, 17 points, somewhere in that range. But I got BYU losing that game. That puts their record now here at 2-2. Next, they play Baylor here on the road on September 28th. Baylor is a team that I'm really having a hard time figuring out how good this team is going to be. You look at both of these teams, BYU and Baylor, they both have very tough schedules this year. And also, these are the two teams that might be at the bottom of the Big 12. You got other teams down there, but, Baylor and BYU are really close to that. I've already chose Baylor to win this game. I think it's a pretty even matchup. It could really go either way, but I think home field advantage is going to be the difference here, and that's really a lot of things here with this Big 12 predictions. Is a lot of these games, home field advantage is going to be the difference in a lot of these games. So with that being said, Baylor gets the win here in a close one. I think it's a low-scoring type game, but I'm going to go with Baylor here to get the win. So that's 2 losses in a row there in the month of September for BYU. That puts their record now here at 2-3. They get their first bye week here this season before playing Arizona at home here on October 12th. So they get a bye week before playing this Arizona team, a newcomer coming up, of course, in the Big 12. Arizona is going to take a bit of a step back from where they were from last year, but they are still going to be a really good team. I think the offense is going to be really good. I think Arizona is going to try to make this one a shootout. BYU will try to run the football in this game. game. I think BYU has a chance to pull off the upset, but I don't think it will happen. I think Arizona definitely is a more talented team than BYU is. And again, I think they were a lot better than BYU last year as well. So with that being said, Arizona gets the win here. It's a close game, but I'm going to go with the Wildcats here of Arizona. So that's 3 losses in a row now here for the Cougars. That drops their record now to 2-4. And it gets really tougher after that. They play Oklahoma State here at home on October 18th. This game, of course, will be on a Friday, so this will be their second Friday night game here on this schedule. I really don't see this game being all that close. I know we've seen a lot of games, with those upsets being happen in weeknight games. I know this is one of those kind of like upset alert type games that Oklahoma State is probably the favorite to win the Big 12, and they're probably going to be beat here in this game. I don't really see that happening. I think Oklahoma State is a much more better team. They're a lot more of a talented team as well than BYU is. So with that being said, I think Oklahoma State gets the win. I think the Cowboys maybe start off slow in this game, but then they find ways to figure things out, and in the second half I think Oklahoma State starts to put up a lot of points. So I got BYU losing that game as well, so that drops their record now at 2-5. Going into the final weekend here in the month of October, they'll play UCF here on the road on October 26th. I just did my UCF prediction video from yesterday. I think UCF is going to be a very good team this year. And I think they're definitely a lot more of a talented team than BYU is. I know both of these teams could be pretty even, but UCF I think is a much more talented team and also a more well-coached team as well. So with that being said, UCF in a close one gets the win here, and that puts BYU's record now at 2-6. Probably fired their head coach right after that UCF game, and going into the final month of the college football season here in the month of November. They get a bye week right after the stretch there from October 12th all the way to October 26th before playing on the road here at Utah on November 9th. A rivalry game, of course. Anything can happen here in this one. Utah, though, with a lot of experience coming back. They're just like Oklahoma State. Probably one of the top contenders to win the Big 12 this year. And Cam Rising, of course, back at quarterback. This is going to be a very talented Utah team. I just don't really think BYU has a chance to pull off the huge win here on the road. I know it's a rivalry game. Anything can happen, but I think Utah definitely is the better team here. So I got Utah getting the win there, and that drops BYU's record now to 2-7. Next game will be at home against Kansas here on November 16th. Kansas is going to be a very good team this year. They do have a lot of experience coming back this year. Jalen Daniels, of course, will be back at quarterback, and if he's healthy by this time, Kansas will probably win this game, but if he's not healthy, I think BYU might have a chance to pull off the upset here. Now, I know a long time ago I did choose BYU to pull off the upset here in this one, but I really wasn't looking at BYU's roster, and also I wasn't really looking at their schedule until I really saw the game and everything. And now when I look back at this game, I'm going to change my pick here, and I've been changing my picks now for like the last couple of days. In a lot of these games, I've chose Illinois to lose to Michigan after choosing Illinois to win that game. And then I also chose another game that I can't remember, but Kansas I think is a much more better team than BYU is. So with that being said, I think Kansas gets the win here. And like I said, I think BYU probably fired their head coach right after that UCF game, and they're probably starting to lose a lot now, and they're probably just not really motivated like they used to be. So I think Kansas gets the win there. So I'm changing my pick. That would put Kansas's record now at 9-3, and then after that BYU plays on the road here at Arizona State on November 23rd. Arizona State, I think, is going to be a lot better this year. They don't really have a lot of playmakers on their roster, but they do have a second-year head coach. They were pretty young last season. I do expect those young players to step up from last year really well. I think this will be a pretty even game. I think it could go either way. Just like the Baylor game, though, I think home field advantage is going to be the difference here. So with that being said, I think Arizona State gets the win here. I think Arizona State pulls off, not an upset, because I think BYU might be a little bit more better roster than Arizona State is, but I think Arizona State gets the win here. So I got BYU dropping to 2-9. And then the final game of the season will be at home against Houston here on November 30th. We got the battle of the Cougars here between Houston and BYU. I really don't know if this is going to be like a rivalry game or anything like that, but these are two teams that are home like the Cougars and everything. You look at this matchup here, I think it's pretty even. You got Houston with a first-year head coach and everything. I think the future is definitely looking bright here for Houston, but it is a game that BYU is kind of desperate to win at this point. They've lost every single game here in the Big 12, and I don't really expect BYU to go winless in the Big 12. I think it's a really close game, but at the end of the day, home field advantage is going to be the difference. I'm going to go with BYU here to get the win. So I got BYU getting at least a Big 12 win this year, but I got them finishing 3-9. So that's a very disappointing year for BYU, but it's not really just about the record. It's more about the schedule, and it's also not just because of the roster. Again, it's more about the schedule. They got to play the top teams here in the Big 12. They got Kansas State. They got, Arizona, Oklahoma State, Utah, Kansas, and UCF is a dark horse contender in the Big 12 as well. So yeah, it's going to be really tough for BYU to get a win here on this schedule. And then also they got SMU in the non-conference out of the ACC. That'll be very tough. And then you got Wyoming, of course. That's a game you don't want to sleep on if you're BYU. And again, I wouldn't be really shocked if BYU end up losing that game against Wyoming. This team could probably go 2-10, but if they do not win a Big 12 game this year, this team probably can go 1-11. That would be a very disappointing year for BYU. But that is my prediction here for the Cougars for 2024 for BYU. It's 3-9. So let me guys know what you think about this BYU team down in the comments below. What do you think their record will be for 2024? Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports Channel.